Hello and welcome to this new little reaction video where we will take a look at the latest announcements from Herpa Wings for the 0304 batch of 2022. And yesterday they actually also released a little YouTube video where they showed us a few other things they're working on that will be released throughout the year, and there were some really interesting things there, so do stay tuned for that. But first we will take a quick glance at the announcements for, as I said, the 0304 batch. So if we just jump straight in, I mean, we have some fairly obvious models that we have been waiting for a while, like for example the E2 2300 in the Air France livery. I think everyone was expecting to see that model. Herpa continues to do some Air Macau models. I don't see a huge market for those here in Europe, but I mean, there are also collectors obviously outside of Europe and also collectors in Europe that do like to do Asian setups, so I guess that's something for them. And also, I mean, the livery itself does look quite interesting, even though it is not really my cup of tea. Then we have something for the retro collectors, as Herpa continues to make models of the MD80 series. And they will have two new models here, an MD82 and an MD83. One of the Aerotrasporti Italiani. Again, I think this is mostly for retro collectors. And we have the MD83 in the Swiss International Airlines livery. I've been told, I think they had only one of those in this livery. So quite historic. Again, not really something for my collection, but I'm sure there are some that really do look forward to that model. And I must admit, I didn't really see that one coming. Then we have two models that we kind of expected and kind of didn't. Since last year's Instagram live stream, I think most of us were expecting Herpa to release Austrian models at some point, because they did mention at that time last summer that they were working on one or two Austrian Airlines models. Now, I think most collectors would have expected Herpa to release maybe an A320, perhaps a wide body, but definitely aircraft models from Austrian Airlines in their current or new livery. They have not been doing that. No, they are releasing two Dash 8s. Normally I would be a huge fan of that. I'm happy for any Dash 8 that Herpa announces. But honestly, come on. I mean, the first one, that's, I'm pretty sure, a model we already have with that livery and registration code. And of course, Austrian doesn't fly the Dash 8 anymore. And it's not like they haven't been flying it for 10 years and you would say, oh, this is an obvious retro model. No, they stopped flying with them last year. And that's the other model they made. They made a model of the last Dash 8 that was flying on this farewell flight, which even had this little sticker on the side that said Pfiat Dash, so in Austrian, goodbye Dash. But why now? Had they made the model a year ago when they had their farewell flight, I would have fully understood it. But now it's so random to make this model, especially when you know how many years we haven't had new Austrian Airlines models. I don't understand why they make these two Dash 8s now, when there are so many other Austrian Airlines models that they should and haven't done so far. So honestly speaking, for me, a bit disappointing. But they did then have another surprise, which I really did not see coming, and I didn't really know anything about. It's the Northrop, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, Northrop Gunman Lockheed L1011, so the TriStar. And as I have been told, this is the last still actively flying TriStar. And apparently the aircraft is basically used by NASA as basically the platform to launch rockets into space, a bit like Virgin Galactic are doing. I mean, okay, the price is 40 euros retail, but okay. But if they work properly, this could be a really cool model, and I'm sure there will be some people that will be looking forward to that quite a bit. Then on the next page we have a few, well, actually only wide bodies. We have the next Etihad Airways Choose livery. That will be the Choose China livery, and that is applied on a 787-10. Then we have something which I think will be very exciting for all collectors from the Oceania region, as we get a Fiji Airways A350-900. Again, nothing really for my collection, but I mean, one, it's a stunning looking livery, and it really does also work well on the A350. And I like when a Herpa tries to have badges that don't just focus on one region in the world, but have a little bit for everyone. I think that does it's the right decision, because we have to acknowledge that, of course, Scale 500 is predominantly a European thing, but there are collectors all over the world, and that's always a good thing if there is something for the collectors outside of Europe as well. And perhaps in the same spirit, we can look at the next model, which is the Kuwait Air Force Boeing C-17A. So there's also something for military collectors. Again, not really my cup of tea, but there is also some military stuff in this batch at least. Then we have a funny one, which is again quite expected, I guess, the Boeing 7879 Dreamliner in the new Lufthansa livery. However, when we look closely at the image Herpa has included in their catalog, you might notice that one of the wheels on the front landing gear is missing. So Herpa quality control doesn't just on a regular basis give us broken models when we buy them ourselves. They have also managed to put one into their official catalog. So yeah, well done Herpa quality control, I guess. Then we have another one which I also didn't really see coming, and that's the Royal Air Force, the Royal Thai Air Force Airbus A340-500. So we have also a government aircraft, which is also good. We get a little bit of everything: civilian, military, government, and from all around the world. I think the reason why this model is being made by Herpa now is because this is an aircraft that actually shows up rather regularly in Munich. So I could imagine that there have been quite a few collectors there, perhaps writing to Herpa asking them to do the model. In any case, it is a quite nice looking livery, so why not? Then the last Scale 500 model in this batch is another Lufthansa, and it is a Lufthansa Cargo 777 with yet another special livery. Not surprising, I mean, Herpa does cover Lufthansa very extensively and do pretty much everything that Lufthansa puts out there. So not surprising, but I guess if you want to build a nice Lufthansa cargo fleet, a nice current Lufthansa cargo fleet, then you will have the option of the standard livery. And recently, or just a few days ago, they released another Lufthansa cargo in a special livery, and now you get a second one, so you can have like 3 freighters of Lufthansa cargo right next to each other, if that is your thing. Now, then there was 2 more things that were quite interesting for Scale 500 collectors, because they finally have made some new accessories. They talked about it last year, and I think the plan was to have it ready by last year, but they clearly didn't manage to. But there is something, or supposedly coming something, in the 0304 batch. I mean, all this is what they hope to release around that time, but we know with Herpa that delays are happening quite regularly, and even though they announced this batch much later than usual, there's no guarantee that this will actually also be available at the time they have planned. But the 2 new accessories, the first thing I would like to talk about are the Jet Blast deflectors, which I think, I mean, when they first talked about it, I thought, I mean, come on, you could make so many other things. But when I see what they have done now, I actually think they've done quite well. I mean, I really like that it appears like you can actually stick them together. That's awesome. And you get like 20 blast deflectors for 13 euros. I think that is actually, for once, a very reasonable price from Herpa. So I do very much look forward to look at that and see how that actually works in real life, but I'm looking forward to that. The other accessory set is a little bit more of a mixed bag for me. I know many collectors have been very excited about it because finally Herpa are again making these small biz jets that they had in accessory sets years and years ago. And it's long overdue that they bring those back. But they put 2 biz jets together with 2 helicopters and sell it for 20 euros. That's way too much. It's totally overpriced. And sure, having 1 or 2 helicopters is nice, but I know that most of us will like to have more biz jets than helicopters. So the ratio is wrong. If they had made the set with 2 biz jets and, for example, 1 little Cessna 172, which they made many years ago as well, and 1 helicopter, and sold that for 16, maybe 17 euros, that would be good value for money, and you would get what most collectors would want. 20 euros for 2 small plastic biz jets and 2 helicopters, and most collectors will have nothing they can actually use these helicopters for. It's a shame. I mean, 1 set, okay, but again, you don't want to have tons and tons of helicopters. What do you want to use that for? So yeah, I think it's a good thing they're making the biz jets again, but I think the set is not quite matching what people actually want. And of course, most definitely, I did not forget during the recording to also mention that Herpa is also releasing a US Air Force Lockheed Martin C5M Super Galaxy model for 40 euros. So I guess I'm lucky that I don't really collect that many military aircraft models. But so those were the 03, 04 releases that they have announced. I think a little bit for everyone. I don't think it's the strongest batch we have ever had. Yeah, Air France, perfect. A little bit retro stuff with the MD-80 series aircraft. Austrians for me is a miss. That's a missed opportunity. The Northrop Gunman, very surprising, but could potentially be a very cool model. Choose livery, okay, we get another one. Fiji Airways, great looking aircraft, something for Oceania. A bunch of Lufthansa models, obviously, and a little bit military and government. So in that sense, the batch is not terrible. I would probably just have wished for a little bit more variety in it. And of course, it's funny that they put a broken model in their promotional material. But there was a YouTube video released yesterday from Herpa Wings, which actually showed some of the stuff that Herpa is working on a little bit more long term and want to release throughout the year. So let's very quickly also take a look at that, because there were some very, very cool things in there. I really love that they have released such a video and that they're starting to communicate more. So let's very quickly go through it. I mean, they talked a bit about some scale 200 and also some scale 400 stuff. We'll skip over that because that's not really our target. When we look at the scale 500 stuff they had, the very first thing they announced here, which is awesome, we have been waiting for that a long, long time, is the mold for the Embraer ERJ-195 E2.
There's only 1 scale left, which is 1 to 500 scale, and as you can notice here up in front, we have big and small next to each other. Surely one of the highlights that we announced for the January-February releases was the Tech Lion, Embraer's brand new 195 E2 series aircraft, and we will, of course, be bringing this as well in the 1 to 500 scale. Here it's still in the white color, but we hope to have by middle of this year, May, June, hopefully, we will have the first one available for pre-ordering.
Now, they have talked about that for ages, but they never told us which exact E2 model they would make. In fact, they told us that they would probably only make one of the new E2 variants. Now we know it will at least be the 95. I hope they will also make the 90. But with the 95, the cool thing is, I would say there's a very good chance now that we will at least get a Helvetic model and a KLM City Hopper model. I'm not sure with Widerøe, the Norwegian airline, if they only have the 90 or if they also have the 95. But there are some options with that model, which is really, really awesome. And I mean, okay, they showed the mold on a white background, so it's a bit difficult to see, but from what we can see, it looks pretty good. I mean, I'm a little bit concerned with the front landing gear, but that's an ongoing topic with Herpa. But overall, yeah, that's really, really cool. Now they've made a few Beluga models over the years, and obviously also started to make Beluga XL models. And now they have actually recreated the loading center, or whatever you want to call it, in Toulouse.
Well, one last thing for today. We have here a first prototype of the Airbus Beluga loading, unloading center, which in this shape is in Toulouse, in France. And it was constructed especially for the Beluga transport to enable a loading or unloading of the Beluga aircraft under any weather conditions.
So I think that is a really cool thing. So you can actually have your little setup. The thing that has annoyed me with the Beluga models has always been like, how can you use it in a setup? Because it's not really realistic. They don't really go so many other places than to the Airbus factories. Of course, this is something that is changing now, because Airbus has announced that they also will do some ad hoc freight tasks with their Belugas. So we might see the Belugas in all sorts of airports in the future. But overall, how can you really integrate a Beluga realistically into a setup? They are building this freight center from Toulouse where they're loading the Belugas. I think that's a really, really cool thing. They did actually last year talk a little bit about where they teased towards like a new airport. It at least sounded for me like they were doing a new airport setup. I think this is what they were talking about last year. So it's this cargo center, loading freight center, whatever. And yeah, I actually must say, I did not see that coming, but I think it is really, really cool. I hope you have enjoyed this video and like this type of content of video here on the channel. If you do so, then feel free to leave a like. That would be very much appreciated. And of course, if you are new around here, why not hit subscribe? With that, I'd like to say thank you very much for watching. Hope to see you soon again. I'm checking out, and bye.